Well, to the presidential election. The latest information I have from my friends within the Republican Party in America, to whom I spoke today, is a simple story. The early vote for the Democrats has not been good enough. The Republican turnout will be enormous. The Republican ground game, their words, enormous. They can turn out tens of millions of voters. Also, all the colleges and universities are shut down, especially in Pennsylvania and North Carolina. So there's no way the Democrats have voters that will compensate for the loss of on-campus Liberal students. A reliable source in Republican congressional staff says Trump is up in Michigan and Pennsylvania by over 1% and growing in the past 2 weeks, and that Trump will win Florida, Georgia and Carolina. The momentum is with Trump. Ignore the fake polls, which are now being massaged to make it look like a close race again, when Trump was never that far behind. I made the point last night that a Granite State poll found that 68% of Trump supporters in New Hampshire were reluctant to place Trump signs in their yards for fear of homes getting vandalised. The poll also found 45% of Trump supporters would not discuss their approval of the president for fear of alienating friends or co-workers. And nearly 70% of women wouldn't discuss their support for Trump with anyone for the same reason. And I said last night that 70% of women who support Trump may be the key element to the silent Trump vote and the entire election. And of course, if you factor in the hate speech and the anti-Trump propaganda that the media and the Democratic Party have brought to bear against Trump, it does make sense, doesn't it? It indicates an enormous reservoir of fear in the Biden camp that the campaign against Trump has not worked. Women are not stupid. They're not going to risk trading peace and prosperity for high taxes, fewer police and more unemployment. They're just less willing to tell the pollsters that they're voting for Trump. Trump's record of accomplishment is virtually unparalleled. The unemployment figures are an all-time low. The employment levels have never, ever been achieved by any other president. And then there are American-friendly trade deals. There are factories and homes and warehouses being built. Trump's fighting against terrorism and for patriotism, old-fashioned values, and against student indoctrination. He's kept America out of foreign wars. He's achieved peace in the Middle East. You might remember what I said last week about the Ladbrokes Australia CEO Dean Shannon. He said, and I quote, "Normally the Melbourne Cup Carnival, and even the Cup itself, can be a bit of a make-or-break moment in our financial year. That will be nothing compared to what we're standing to lose on a Trump re-election." Dean Shannon said, "Not only has the volume of bets been surprising, the sheer size of many of them have been quite puzzling. We have far more bets of over $50,000 on Trump than we'll take on any horse in the Melbourne Cup. It is strange," he said, "because most of the polls and quote-unquote expert commentary still seem to suggest Trump has very little chance. Yet we can barely write a ticket for Biden." What about Biden's rally in Michigan on Saturday? They dragged in Barack Obama. Obama gave a warm-up speech and introduced, quote, "My friend, the next president of the United States of America, Joe Biden." Take a look at this.
The next president of the United States of America, Joe Biden. Joe Biden. Joe Biden. Honk if you're fired up. Honk if you are ready to go. Joe Biden.
He didn't recognise his name. He finally appears. He then shouted his way through a short teleprompter speech. Obama then came back on stage to escort Biden off because Biden didn't seem to know where he was. This is the bloke who 2 weeks ago said, "I'm running as a proud Democrat for the United States Senate." And only last week he said, 4 more weeks of George. He couldn't remember Trump's name. He thought it was George W. Bush. There is one stumbling block here, of course, and that is that of the people eligible to vote, there are about 239 million, but 93 million as of Sunday had already voted. In the entire 2016 election, 136 million voted, so the turnout is already more than 2/3 of that number. There are predictions that 150 million Americans may vote, which will be 65% of those eligible. It's not compulsory. That will be the highest turnout in percentage terms since 1908. We'll talk to Miranda later in the program, but James Morrow has filed this report from America.
Well, good evening, Alan. It's great to be with you here from New York City, where polls are going to be opening in just a few hours, not just here in New York, but across the entire east coast of the United States and then across the entire United States as we go throughout the day. We just spent the day yesterday at a rally for Donald Trump in Scranton, Pennsylvania. It was part of a huge whistle-stops tour he's been doing around the country, where he's been speaking to tens of thousands of voters at these amazing pop-up, essentially amphitheaters that they're putting up at airfields across the country, where he can fly in, talk to the crowd, then fly off to the next destination. He's just wrapped up his campaign a couple of hours ago at 1:13 a.m. out in Michigan, which shows the sort of stamina that he has compared to Joe Biden, who, as he said at the start of his speech, can't even fill his circles when he's giving a rally. We did talk to a lot of fascinating people, a lot of voters, all really, really concerned about this election. I'll tell you what, the polls are tightening up. But one person who we did catch up to, which you might find interesting, is Nigel Farage, the Brexit architect. He spoke to us about why he thinks Donald Trump is going to win and what is at stake in this election.
Listen, the Americans aren't just voting for who becomes president of America, important though that is, they're voting for the leader of the free world. I don't see any other Western leader with the moral courage to stand up and expose what Antifa and Black Lives Matter really stand for, which is defunding the police, Marxism, the breakdown of our society. And it's also important that this Chinese Communist Party is the biggest threat the free world has faced for 80 years. We need Trump as our leader to stand up, because if he's strong, our leaders in our countries will be strong as well. So this is a really important election.
And you've been watching the polls. How do you think he's going to go tomorrow? You think he's going to get there, get that 270?
Who watches the polls? Oh, come on, please. Do you mean the polls that said Brexit couldn't happen? The polls that said Trump could never ever win in 2016? These polls, look, this is all suppression polling. It's all made to try and make people who are thinking about voting Trump, oh, there's no point bothering, we've lost anyway. I'll tell you something, all right? He's going to win tomorrow.
Energy between the two campaigns.
Well, I tell you what, I mean, I've been involved in campaigns, I've watched campaigns all over the world, I've been involved in a few. I was here in 2016, following Trump rallies, the energy and enthusiasm that is being generated here, not just at these rallies. I was here in Pennsylvania last night. I visited a couple of bars, purely for research, you understand. And I got to tell you, there is a buzz, there is a momentum now running behind Trump. And I want to add to that, he, since that second debate, has been magnificent. You wait till you see him today. He is just on the form of his life.
So that was Nigel Farage, Alan, and pretty interesting stuff he had to say there, not just about the wind in Donald Trump's sails, but also what is at stake in this really crucial election, not just for America, but the world. It's going to be fascinating to see how this plays out. It could be a result that is contested, not just at the polls, but also in the courts, and we will see this play out not just in the hours, but potentially the days and weeks ahead. So look forward to bringing you more of that here from the States.